Good Shabbos. Good evening. Hope you're doing well this evening. I am, and I'm happy to be here making a little Shabbos music with you and for you. I hope you'll join and sing with me, whether it's just you, wherever you are, or whether you're with people. Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachi Asharei, Malachi Elyon, Mimelech Malachi HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Malachi Asharei, Malachi Elyon, Mimelech Malachi HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Malachi Asharei, Malachi Elyon, Mimelech Malachi HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem Shalom, Malachi Shalom, Malachi Elyon, Mimelech Malachi HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bachuni l'Shalom, Malachi Shalom, Malachi Elyon, Mimelech Malachi HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzitchem l'Shalom, Malachi HaShalom, Malachi Elyon, Mimelech Malachi HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Good Shabbos. I want to invite you to take a deep breath in. Let your shoulders relax. Exhale. Take another deep breath in. Feel the air filling your lungs, moving through all of the little veins and arteries. I forget which one is the one that takes the oxygen from the deep breath you just took into all of the tight places in your body, and then you exhale, and then it goes the other direction. I'll check the chat later. Maybe one of you will remind me which goes in which order. In any case, all the trees are finally in bloom. The flowers are beginning to come out. The lilacs on my lilac tree have already come and gone. The crocuses and tulips in my front yard have already come and gone and are beginning to give way to new plants. And it feels like spring has sprung, which is such a nice feeling, and which I bet means that there are many fewer of you here right now in the chat and in real time than there might otherwise be, or than there were during the winter. But if you are here and you are listening in this moment, this very moment, feel free to say hello in the chat, introduce yourself, find out who's here and where people are tuning in from. I feel like that's such a pandemic move, and then 60 people later from all over the country, we'd know where everybody was and what everybody had for dinner, what everybody put in their little Kiddush cup next to their Shabbat computer station. But we do these once a month online only services as a way of doing the same thing for everyone, regardless of where you are tuning in from. So there's no feeling of anybody here is having more of an in-person experience than anyone else. No, once a month on these Friday nights, it's just you and me, all of us together wherever we are. And that feels really nice. I guess that's also true for Morning Minyan every single morning at 8 a.m. So if you dig this, you probably dig that too. And you are invited. You are invited. I want to invite us now to begin to shift from the frenetic energy of the week to the peacefulness of Shabbos, which is as much an internal decision as it is, something that happens as the sun begins to set. Because the truth is, the sun's not going to set for a little while. It's still bright out there. The world is still moving at the pace of the week. But you and me, I have made a decision to begin to bring in Shabbat. And so in order to do that, we have all of our kind of tools, artifacts, ritual items to help us make that transition. So I'm going to stand. I'm going to move over to my candles here. We're going to gather in the light, hold it. You can see the light from your computer screen. Gather it into you if you don't have candles where you are. But I encourage you to get some candles. And we'll light some candles. And then we'll do a blessing or two. Sing a little bit more. Learn some Torah. Count the Omer. Call it a night. Make Kiddush. All right, shall we? Let's do it. I'm going to light all these candles here. For those of you who are wondering where my usual candle helpers are, they are at T-ball practice because somebody thought it was a good idea for the youngest group to have practice at 6 p.m. on Friday. Don't ask me who that was, but that means everybody's out of the house as I light candles on Friday night right now, which is a little sad, but at least they're learning T-ball. They may come home while we're doing this and then we'll say hello, but for now, I invite you to gather in that light. 1, 2, 3. Hold your hands over your eyes. Gather it into your heart. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. And you can say or send some of this peacefulness and this light and this warmth to anyone who needs it right now. Maybe you want to take a moment just to think of who might need a little bit of healing. Send some of this warmth and this light to people who need healing. All week in the morning minyan, we've been praying for Ricky's Aunt Pat, who's been in the hospital in a coma, and yesterday, for the first time, she opened her eyes. We really felt for a moment like all the prayers we say every day, whenever we gather, do something, mean something, change something. I have a little prayer down here next to my candles. I picked up while I was in Israel in February. You can see this is a particular individual who's among the hostages in Gaza right now. His name is Yosef Chaim Ohana. He's 23. So I have this little picture of him hanging out by my candles here as a prayer that the war ends and that our hostages come home and that the Middle East become a place of generativity and justice and peace, and where no one has to live in fear every single week as I light candles. Can you hear that sound? May it be the case. So I'm going to put up my hands here the way that I would put my hands on the heads of my children and send blessings to you, which, if you want, you can put your own hands on your face like this as if to kind of channel the energy I'm sending you. Or maybe you've got somebody you want to put your hands on their head nearby. First I'll say, Yisimcha Elohim ke'Ephraim v'chimenashe, Yisimecha Elohim ke'Sara, Rivka, Rachel, v'Leah. May God make you like Ephraim and Manasseh, like Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, which is to say, may you truly step into a sense of who you are, your power in the world. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka, Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God bless you and guard you and keep you safe and healthy. May God shine a path of light for you, and may your light shine brightly in this world. May you be a peacemaker, and may peace follow you wherever you go. Amen. Ken Yeh Ratzon. May it be so. I don't think I've gotten to do a thank you on this Friday night space for Susanna Darwin, who a couple months ago had a bat mitzvah here at Mishkan. She came in from Florida to have her 60th birthday and to commemorate an anniversary in her own Jewish journey by reading Torah at Mishkan. But she came up here with a hard case and this guitar, which is a very, very cool, fancy guitar, whose name I'm forgetting right now. I'm embarrassed. But it has all this gorgeous inlaid, like mother of pearl and awesome, like, you can't even really see it, work in it throughout the whole thing. And she said, like, she really tried to learn guitar, to play it. She had a great teacher here in Chicago named Shinobu, who it turns out Henry, my husband, also learned guitar with and was obsessed with. Anyway, she gave me this guitar because she thought I would appreciate it, and I do. So anyway, Susanna, who is often listening to our stuff remotely because she's in Florida, but we're her community. Thank you. All right, this is a prayer for release of our bodies and our minds. Anna bekoach gedulat yemincha, tatir tzerura, kabel rinat amcha sagvenu, tareinu nora. Anna bekoach gedulat yemincha, tatir tzerura, kabel rinat amcha sagvenu, tareinu nora. Hay gedulat yemincha, tatir tzerura, kabel rinat amcha sagvenu, tareinu nora. All right. Let's learn a little Torah, shall we? Yeah, we won't do the Omer song quite yet. We'll count the Omer later as it gets closer to tomorrow. so, so I was very happy that this week I had the opportunity to think back to an episode of Glee. Maybe you remember this show way back from the early 2010s. In this particular episode, let me set the stage. 18 episodes into the second season of the hit TV show Glee, Rachel, a Jewish character on the show, played by actress Lea Michele, decides or contemplates getting a nose job. Right? So this was a 2010s drama about a high school glee club, like a dance, singing, show choir group type thing. And anyway, Rachel suffers an injury to her nose during practice that gives her the opportunity to have reconstructive surgery to fix her deviated septum, which her doctor and a friend with a cute little button nose both think is a good idea to both fix the deviated septum and her big Jewish nose. And so the episode becomes an exploration of how teenagers deal with having differences from some kind of ideal of beauty or perfection that they think that the world holds. Right? Some kids are embarrassed about a physical feature of their body, like their weight or their eye color. Some are embarrassed about their need to wear glasses or be in a wheelchair. Some have a mental illness that they struggle with. And at the beginning of the episode, there are a few popular kids who are in the closet about being gay or lesbian. Everyone is struggling with how or whether to let people know the truth about them. And often the truth is something about which we would say, like, what's the big deal? But of course, to them, it's a big deal. This insecurity about sharing one's true self or sharing something that you feel might make you different or unacceptable is unfortunately reinforced in this week's Torah portion and more. There are a few lines in this week's Torah portion that have deeply challenged readers for millennia, having to do with this precise issue. The conversation emerges through some pretty challenging verses in Leviticus 21. So, quote, the Lord said to Moses, "Say to Aaron, the high priest, for the generations to come, none of your descendants who have a defect may come near to offer sacrifices to his God. No man who has a defect may come near, no man who is blind or lame or disfigured or deformed, no man with a crippled foot or hand, or who is hunchback or dwarf, who has an eye defect or who has a festering running sore or a damaged testicle. No descendant of Aaron the priest who has any defect is to come near to present the food offerings to the Lord. He must not go near the curtain or approach the altar, and so desecrate my sanctuary. I am the Lord who makes them holy." Oof, right? This is so hard to read every year. The Torah seems to be saying that a priest or Kohen is only allowed to do all of the temple service on behalf of the community in public if they are physically perfect. And not just physically perfect, but without, without a festering wound or a crippled foot or a lazy eye, but also functionally perfect, also not blind, not walk with a limp. This prohibition includes damaged testicles, which also seems to imply even that hidden or invisible illnesses that you can't readily see are also defects and disabilities as well that would disqualify you from temple service. This is one of many places where the words on the page in the Torah directly contradict a value we hold dear today, and would seem to confirm the cruel feeling that so many of us live with, that if we show up with our differences in the world, we won't be accepted. Right? Could the Torah really be saying that human beings with physical and mental differences aren't fit to serve as priests? or certainly as fit to serve as priests as people who don't have those differences. And if that is what the text is saying, and you disagree, and I imagine you probably disagree, then like, what do we do with this book? So full of ancient and in some cases deeply problematic verses that categorically exclude people who we don't think should be excluded from mainstream public life. And you know, we've wrestled with this in other contexts with other kinds of cases of this sort of thing. This is a particular example this week. Rabbi Lauren Tuckman, who is a beautiful thinker and teacher, who I've had the pleasure of studying with, who happens to be blind, she writes on this week's Torah portion, one could ignore this passage, given that Kohanim no longer enjoy the privileged status once afforded to them in the aftermath of the temple's destruction, or we might be horrified by this passage, but also comfort ourselves with the knowledge that no longer are individuals with disabilities explicitly forbidden from ritual or communal leadership, as evidenced by the tiny but steadily growing cohort of rabbis, rabbinical students, cantors, and others who are bravely and boldly exercising spiritual leadership that is so desperately needed. We might think to ourselves that we are working ceaselessly for change, and that in the aftermath of the passage of the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, life has improved immeasurably for individuals with disabilities in our society. We could remember that back in the day, the practice was often to euthanize babies who were born with physical deformities. So given that as an alternative, what our text describes, just not letting them serve as priests, actually sounds pretty progressive, right? Tuckman writes, we can look at this passage as a mere relic of its day and congratulate ourselves for moving past it. But then she says, can we, really? And of course, the answer is no. We can't congratulate ourselves for moving past this kind of thinking because its presence in the Torah and the fact that we encounter it every year and every year are bothered by it alerts us to the persistent human dynamic that we are very much still wrestling with. That basic human bias against difference that shows up in our immediate visceral reactions to physical appearance, our own and that of others. Just think of how you react to seeing a pimple or some minor imperfection on your face. And certainly how we react to encountering differences in ability and physicality in ourselves and in those around us. This line in the Torah and our reaction to it is a big red warning asking us to pay closer attention. There is something we need to examine here, some kind of tikkun, healing, that we need to make. So one thing I always warn our B'nai Mitzvah students when they go into reading especially difficult passages in the Torah is to be careful, because Torah looks like it's a document of instructions, things to do, prescriptions. The Torah does contain timeless wisdom for us that has not changed in millennia, but it is actually a document describing how humans actually are. It's descriptions, not prescriptions. And so if we pay attention to these timeless truths about the human failings and shortcomings and biases that we see in the Torah, if we pay attention to those, we can learn by not repeating them. The descriptions, therefore, are as important, if not more important, than the prescriptions. And this is one of those places where we cannot read the Torah prescriptively. We have to read it descriptively. And understanding what biases the Torah is alerting us to. In doing that, we can transcend them, or at least do our absolute hardest to do better at welcoming, affirming, and loving the things that make us and the people around us different from whatever idealized, perfect, whole, false standard we're holding ourselves and others to. And to be clear, we're not doing any favors for people with disabilities or differences. Rather, we are making the world a safer, healthier, happier place for everyone, liberating all of us from false standards of beauty and body and brains that confine us. And to be clear, we are all hurt by these false ideals and standards of beauty and health. In Jonathan Haidt's new book, The Anxious Generation, he correlates the dramatic decline in teenage mental health, especially girls, not just with smartphones and social media. We all know those things are correlated, but specifically with the invention of front-facing cameras that turned selfies into a thing, especially on Instagram, but in so many other places as well, making us all newly obsessed with how our image compares to the images of others, of other filtered, adjusted, AI-infused, perfect faces and bodies we're now seeing come up in our feeds. And the more time we spend in social media, the more of those we will see, and the more we will compare ourselves to them. And this kind of social comparison to an ideal, obviously present for millennia as a feature of human society, is now available on steroids in our pockets all the time and is harming all of us in ways we can't even begin to really quantify, but begin to have a sense of. So Rabbi Ruth Adar, a Reform rabbi who struggles with an invisible disability, she writes on this week's Torah portion, I got the idea from this week's Torah portion that a person who was leading services should be physically perfect. That if I needed a cane or a wheelchair to function, I was not fit to lead a service. For years, I hid my own disability when it came to leading services, despite the fact that standing for any length of time gave me excruciating pain. As a result, I was not at my best on the bima. I was fuzzy-minded, clouded with pain. I mispronounced words. I forgot things. I didn't give my congregation the leadership it deserved. Eventually, I decided I should not be a congregational rabbi because of the disability I struggled to hide. This is deeply sad, right? Think of all of the talented people with different kinds of hidden disabilities who have exerted great effort to keep them hidden, or talented people who have exerted great effort because the architecture of the world doesn't lend itself to assisting people with a wheelchair or a walker or hearing or vision disabilities share space. And so often the effort that they have to exert to bring their talent or brilliance ends up coming in spite of or overcoming their disability or difference, instead of simply in the presence of it or through the wisdom and beauty arrived at through living with it over years. Rabbi Julia Watts-Belzer, who is a professor in theology and religious studies at Georgetown, wrote recently wrote a book that won the National Jewish Book Awards called Loving Your Own Bones, Disability, Wisdom, and the Spiritual Subversiveness of Knowing Ourselves Whole. And she said about writing that book, rather than asking the question, what religious texts have to say about disability, we instead should be asking, what does disability offer to Jewish tradition, to spiritual life, and to the practice of building meaningful community? Right? What do specifically the things that are being identified in our religious texts as problematic, but that we know are not, that we know the problem is actually in the perception of the eye of the beholder, what does that actually have to teach us? Not what do our religious texts say about it, what does it have to teach all of us about the practice of building meaningful community? Because the truth is, as she points out, disabilities and differences are all over the Torah. And now I'm expanding to include all manner of differences that distinguish a person from some idealized norm, which in their day was some version of able-bodied, cis, hetero man, although probably not white because we are talking about the ancient Middle East. Our patriarch Isaac was blind. Our patriarch Jacob walked with a limp after a wrestling accident with an angel. Our patriarch Joseph was a flamboyant, multicolored coat-wearing fashionista who had no interest in the advances of his sexy female employer, maybe into guys. And then you have Moses, who expresses his self-doubt about his own fitness for leadership because he speaks with a stutter. Watts-Belzer points out that Moses' brother Aaron stands in as the first reasonable accommodation in the Torah, becoming an essential part of the prophet's communication team. God grants Moses the gift of signs, his staff, the plagues, which are an invitation to embrace visual language and tactile experiences rather than relying only on words. God also promises to be with Moses, to give him support. And just as God has created Moses in the first place and created his tongue, God will be with him and open his heart to help him believe that he indeed has everything he needs to lead. The truth is, the rabbis who created modern Judaism 2,000 years ago, who inherited the Torah, they understood the problem with this text, and they understood the problem here is not the person with the difference, whatever the difference is. The problem is our bias. The issue is how distracted we get by other people's differences. In the Mishnah, Rav Yehuda says the Kohen, a priest, with stains on his hands may not give the priestly blessing, quote, because people would be inclined to stare. So Rabbi Adar writes, if in fact the reason for keeping the Kohanim with visible defects from the temple was because people will stare, then it suggests the problem is not in the disability, but in the reactions of the public to disabilities and differences, even differences as innocuous as stains on the hands. And then a few hundred years later, the rabbis go even further in counteracting the harmful implications of this Torah text we began with today, writing in the Talmud, if the Kohen is known locally and people are used to him, then there is no impediment in his participating in the service. Meaning, if people know him and know his mind and his skills, it's fine for him to serve them, despite what might disqualify him in a place where people would judge him negatively for his flaws because they didn't know him as well. Because, of course, once we know someone well, we accept them and love them, not despite their differences, but in the presence of them. They're just part of the whole person. We accept them the way that God accepts Moses, broken yet whole. Worthy as being seen as a leader, not because the differences get fixed or solved or healed, but rather by recognizing them and accommodating them so a person's wisdom and talent can flow freely. It's all any of us really want and need. So paradoxically, the Torah, plus all of the commentary from the rabbis in the Mishnah and Talmud over thousands of years, all of that together helps us see where the real work of healing and change lies, not in the person with the difference, but in the person who is distracted by it. All of us, really, in one way or another. The problem is a world that perpetuates harmful and unrealistic ideals of perfection and asks all of us to be more like that ideal and less like our beautiful, varied, imperfect selves. Rabbi Adar writes, if I am distracted by the way in which someone is different from me, by their race or their accent or the wheelchair they use, she says the fault isn't in them. Rather, it is my task to get over it, or more accurately, to get over myself. The bias or suspicion of difference is something our brains adopted millions of years ago, probably for self-protection out on the savannah, when any little change in the environment could have been dangerous. So this is something really deep in the brain, and overcoming or transcending this very human instinct is not something that happens once. It is something we practice and lovingly do again and again and help each other remember. Part of being in community is feeling safe enough to share one's real self, and in being one's real self, helping and inspiring others to feel that they can be their real, whole, imperfect selves too. Okay, so the way the episode of Glee ends, by the way, is with a big dance number, of course, in which each member of the Glee Club comes out on stage in a t-shirt that announces the very thing that we, as the viewers, knew they were self-conscious about and were trying to hide, but they are now prepared to share. And the dance number begins with the first teenage boy on stage whose t-shirt says, "Likes boys." And next to him is a black female student whose t-shirt says, "No weave." And next to them on the stage dances an adorable guy in a hat whose t-shirt says, "Can't sing." And next to them dances an adorable guy whose t-shirt says, "Can't dance." And then a kid in glasses in a wheelchair, his t-shirt says 4 eyes, and an Asian student's t-shirt says brown eyes. Each student is modeling both embracing their own perfections, not as deficits, but as a beautiful part of their whole selves, and doing that and holding space for every other person on stage to do the same. And finally, Leah Michelle walks out, dances out, wearing her t-shirt that says, "Nose," finally having decided not to fix her perfect Jewish nose. The Kotzker Rebbe, the Hasidic rabbi, used to say, there is nothing so whole as a broken heart. And Rabbi Shefa Gold, on this week's Torah portion, writes, "When I look at nature and I look at the human predicament of every person I meet, I cannot find something that is unblemished. The closer I look, the more imperfections I find. Everything and everyone is in process. Even the people you think are perfect." And so I want to bless you tonight. I want to bless me tonight. I want to bless all of us to experience ourselves as whole, as imperfectly perfect. I want to bless you that you can experience your face, your eyes, your ears, your nose, your mouth, your hair, your voice, your chest, your belly, your hands and your feet. All the connective tissue holding you together, all the experiences that you've had in this body. I want to bless you that you feel that they are a gift. Not an accident, but an asset. Not something to hide, but something to share. And in doing so, find community, find wisdom, and find the deeper spirituality and satisfaction that comes from being the person that you were put into this world to be. Because we need you just the way you are. Shabbat Shalom. And I thought it would be fun to close out this little sermon with actually getting to experience that act from Glee. So Will, if you'll make me a co-host, thank you very much. Okay.
It doesn't matter if you love him or capital H-I-M. Just put your paws up, 'cause you were born this way, baby. My mama told me when I was young, we're all about superstars. She rolled my hair, put my lipstick on, in a glass of her boudoir. There's nothing wrong with loving who you are, she said, 'cause he made you perfect, babe. So hold your head up, girl, and you'll go far. Listen to me when I say I'm beautiful in my way, 'cause God makes no mistakes. I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way. Don't hide yourself in regret, just love yourself and you said I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way. Don't be a drag, just be a queen. Whether you're broke or evergreen, your black, white, beige, chola descent, your Lebanese, your Orient. Whether life's disabilities left you outcast, bullied or teased, rejoice and love yourself today, cause baby, you were born this way. No matter black, white, or beige, chola or Orient made, I'm on the right track, baby, I was born to be brave. I'm beautiful in my way, cause God makes no mistakes. I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way. Don't let yourself in regret, just love yourself and you say, I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way. Ooh, there ain't no other, baby, I was born this way. Baby, I was born this way. Ooh, there ain't no other way, baby, I was born this right track, baby, I was born this way. I was born this way, hey, I was born this way, hey, I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way, hey, I was born this way, hey, I was born this way, hey, I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way, hey.
All right. All right, wait a second. Come on, come on, come on. How do I get out of this? Ah! Stop share. Stop share. Come on. No, stop share. Will, for the love of God. Oh, Lord.
I know
Stop
my way
share.
around here.
Stop. Screen share.
The
I stopped sharing it, right?
trees, the
For the
painted
love of
seas,
God.
the sound here.
How do I find that screen and turn it off?
To rediscover.
Oh my God, y'all. Of course this
But
happened.
I'm not in
Oh, there we go.
hurry.
Enough, enough, enough. All right. All right. Lord, sorry about that. All right. Now then. Now then. Shall we moving on? Shall we count the Omer? Okay. Here we go. Great. All right. Sorry, also, like, of course I cried during that, because that's what happens to me now when I see things that remind me of the beauty of the human spirit. All right. We adjust our vision now to think about unifying all the disparate parts of God. This is the intention we set before we go into counting the Omer. The mystics many years ago made an intention for us. Don't just do this thing. Don't just do the counting. Set an intention for what you mean by it. And so they wrote and they said, and what they meant was that we do this for the purpose of unifying God, l'shem yichud, to bring together kudsha brichu ushchinte, the great masterful, sort of God's power and God's immanent presence here on planet Earth, in and around all of us. I am prepared and ready to fulfill the commandment of my Creator to count the Omer. 7 complete weeks, you will do it. But also over the course of 7 weeks, you will reflect on yourself. You will become a little bit more complete yourself. So very much in the spirit of what we learned tonight. L'shem yichud kudsha brichu ushchinte hineni mukhan umezuman lekayem mitzvat aseh shel sfirat haomer shel sfirat haomer shel sfirat haomer shel sfirat haomer Sheva Shabbatot Timimot tiyena Sheva Shabbatot Timimot tiyena Hay 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 Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav etzivanu Al Sfirat HaOmer Al Sfirat HaOmer Al Sfirat HaOmer Al Sfirat HaOmer Hayom 25 yom shehem 3 shavuot ו4 yamim leomer. Today is 25 days, which is 3 weeks and 4 days of the Omer. We have 24 days left. Well, actually, really 25, because on the 25th day, it'll be Shavuot. Happy day 25, everybody. Next Friday night, just by way of a little announcement, we will be at North Center Town Square, assuming the weather is as beautiful as it is today, knock on wood. And you are invited to dine with us at Don Pedro afterward. We're doing a little community dinner situation. I know it's Memorial Day weekend. And if you're in town, it would be so great to hang and so great to sing outside and then to eat Mexican food together after the service is over right across the street. You can, pay in advance and take care of it all in advance and just come and hang out. It'll be our first Friday night outside of the summer, and we're doing the rest of our Friday nights outside all summer. And man, are we looking forward to it. Other things you might want to know about or look forward to this Thursday night, May 23rd, we're hosting Todd Schatz, who is the producer of an Emmy Award-winning short film called Recipe for Change, Stand Up to Anti-Semitism, with a whole bunch of famous people that were in this movie that all dined together many times eating, delicious gourmet food in LA. It's like, Idina Menzel and the girl from Broad City, Ilana Glazer, and Rachel Bloom, and a whole bunch of famous people talking about their experiences being Jewish in America. And we'll be interviewing the producer, talking about his experience making the film, what the film came out before October 7th, what it has been like talking to people and hearing their experiences since October 7th. Does the movie still hold up? Anyway, it should be interesting. It'll be in our office, so sign up online. And then, of course, we're doing we're doing something in our office before the community Shavuot experience at Anshe Emet. So I hope you'll come. It'll be a Shavuot story or sermon slam. Got great community members doing like 5-minute sermons, stories on how they find Jewish joy right now in honor of this holiday of receiving Torah and where we're finding our meaning in our Judaism this year. So anyway, that should be a fun night too. It'll be with dinner, and we'd love to see you. All right, I think that wraps it up for tonight. Let's make Kiddush and send ourselves out. Hi, fam. Hi. Does anybody want to make Kiddush with me?
Sure, after I get my double knotted cleat off.
He said, sure, after I get my double knotted cleat off. Hen, maybe you can get them grape juice and they can join me as I'm making Kiddush. I'm going to start now and they can join me when they get their grape juice. Y'all feel free to just come on in and I'll get you grape juice, all right? This is a Kos Eliyahu and Elijah's cup that Judah made in school. And it called to me off the rack. Vayehi Erev, Vayehi Boker. Come on over.
What's supposed to be
For Pesach. I know, but I loved it. It's so cool. I wanted to use it for Kiddush tonight.
Can I use mine?
Yeah, how about after we turn off the computer tonight, then you can have grape juice in here, okay?
Bobby.
All right, hang on. There are people on the other side of that. So now let's all make Kiddush together.
Anyone.
Well, you can't see them, but they can see you. All right, but you'll only be here if you want to sing with me. Vayehi Erev, Vayehi Boker Yom HaShishi.
I want to chair.
No, we're standing. ויחולו השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם. ויחל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה. וישבות ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה. ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי ויקדש אותו. כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. סברי חבריי, משפחתי.
Did you already do challah?
No. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצה בנו, ושבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחי.
לנו.
זיכרון למעשה,
בראשית.
כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי.
קודש.
זכר לציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת, ואותנו קידשת עם כהנים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש. Adira and Judah together. Shabbat. Off my lap, Judah, and Adira's turn. Come on up. You want to come up and get a hug?
Mom, can I have my cup back?
Oh, we got a grape juice here. Who wants a sip?
No.
Adira gets the first sip.
No, I don't want that one.
Whoa, okay, Adira, I think it's time for you to go to bed.
No.
Okay. All right, my friends. We're going to say Kaddish for anyone who has lost someone in this past week, past year, past month, or past year. I'm thinking tonight about Jason Pickelman's family.
I already finished my juice.
He had a beautiful funeral in Shiva earlier this
Mommy, I
week.
already finished my juice.
And anyone else who you might be thinking of for Kaddish tonight, go ahead and drop their name in the chat. All right. Yitgadal v'yitkadesh shemei Rabbah. V'yalma divrach cherutei v'yamlik malchutei b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael bagala u'v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shmei dekudsha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata damiran be'alma v'imru. Amen.
Sorry.
Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru. Amen. May the one who makes peace on high make peace down on earth among us, among our people, among all peoples. And we say Amen. Amen. All right, well, let's send out our evening tonight with a little prayer for peace. With some Oseh Shalom. All right, Judah, I am going to need my lap for this guitar, if that's okay. Thank you. Oop.
Mom, can I play the drums for Oseh Shalom? Pretty please? Wah.
Oseh Shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ose shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom. All right, Judah, enough. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. Good Shabbos, everybody. Hope to see you in the morning at CJDS, 9:30 a.m., celebrating Olivia Schleman's bat mitzvah and just having a good Shabbat morning together. Good night. Good Shabbos.